Thanks, people. We'll make a start so that we can finish and get on with lunch. So I'm Lillian Soon, and this is
David Anderson.
Okay. So the things that we're going to cover today are going to be. Let me just hang on 2 seconds. Let me just make sure I get my slides up as well. So we're going to try and make it as participative as possible. Again, you've got devices. If you don't have a device that works well for you, please do kind of shift and sit next to someone else, if that's all right. So we're going to look at collaborative teaching and learning, but we're going to kind of create that shared understanding together. And then David's going to engage you in actual use of the technology, see what you feel about it, and then we'll have a discussion about what works and what doesn't work. Okay? So this was my bit on what is learning. Now, I'm going to come out of the presenter mode for this one, if that's all right.
Sure.
So often when we're using... So often when we're starting on these sessions, what I like to do is connect with what you already know. Okay, that's good practice, isn't it? What does the learner already know? So if people want to just shout out quickly, what is learning? What kind of words come to your mind when someone says, I'm learning? What are they doing? Studying. Okay. What other words?
Understanding.
Okay.
Assimilating.
Okay. Any other words?
Inquiry.
Inquiring, like that? Okay. Oh. I do apologize if I've started already, but we're only at the beginning activity, so... Can I sit here? Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, that's fine. Sorry, I've just got my cookie crumbs there, but don't worry about it. So we're looking at what is learning to start with, because the session's on collaborative learning. So what other words come to mind when we talk about learning?
It's a process.
Process, okay. Anything else? Any other examples or words come to mind when you talk about learning?
Reflecting.
Reflecting, thank you.
Experimenting.
Anything else? One more? Sorry? Ooh, nice. I like that. Because that's almost a meta learning, you know, it's your commitment to learning. So it's educultural, not just about the actual knowledge. So some nice words there from this group about what learning is. And I know you're supposed to kind of present, but I quite like to use the raw slides and PowerPoint because it means I can interact with it a bit more. Okay? So a lot of these terms, if you look at the terms that we've come up with, under pressure, as it were, studying, understanding, assimilating, inquiring, a lot of these are quite mind-based, aren't they? Have you noticed? They're quite Kolbe, shall we say, yeah? I think you might be familiar with Kolbe and this idea of learning is almost like something that goes on in your head, yeah? So that's one aspect of learning. It's something that goes on in your head. But it's not just that, is it? You know, because learning is also an exhibition of like behaviors, a change in your behavior, and you can also learn just by talking to someone. You know, quite often I find I learn better when I am just having a professional conversation with someone and something dawns on me that I was struggling with when I was just trying to write an essay or read a piece of research. And then I go and talk to someone about it and suddenly a new idea pops into my head. So that's when something happens in your head, but as a result of you doing some kind of interaction. Okay? So this is, how many of you here have heard of Dinah, Laurel? Yeah? Okay, small number. So for the rest of you, you're being introduced to it, which is good. She has this conversational framework, which, you know, she has developed over time. Yeah? And she's, I think at the beginning, she didn't even really do much about the peer. It was very much about the connections between the teacher and the student. You know, she's very much in kind of higher education. She's talking about the fact that when we stand here and teach, you're not learning in the real world, like how to drive a car or how to operate on a patient. you are dealing with concepts in my head that I'm telling you about, and then you're thinking about it, and then you're saying something about it back to me, and then I'm judging what's in your head. So that's what this is kind of about. Okay, she's theorized it. She's drawn this little map out. And so what I'd really like you to do is think about and talk to the person next to you. Let me, if you can just spend a couple of minutes talking to the person next to you, how much of each of these blue things do you do in your classes right now? Okay, because I'm sure you know that a lot of HE lectures, hopefully a reducing number, but some of them, and I'll give you a link to this slideshow so that you can have it up on your machines. Some people will talk an entire hour. So they're kind of expecting their students to acquire by listening and watching them. But how much inquiry is going on when all you're doing is listening? Yeah. So I'd like you to think about your own sessions and how much of each is happening in your sessions. Okay. I'll put up a URL of this. So for me, lesson planning this session was like a matter of minutes because I was reusing the things we'd already planned in the webinar. So if you like, in this hour, you're getting a feel for what happened in the webinar as well. Okay, it's a face-to-face version. So, I'll just kind of say that if you wanted to copy that down, or I'll finish on this slide so that you can copy that down. That takes you to the slideshow for this topic. Okay. And to be fair, I've advanced a bit from when we did the collaboration webinar because at that point in time we hadn't pulled out Dinah Laurel's thing in that webinar. So I'll be adding that back into the digital journey. So this is what we'd like you to do. We'd like you to, if you can go to the Google slide, which I'll go back to the link in a minute, or maybe we could write it up here. What we're going to do is we're going to actually go into the Padlets and use the resource that we created for the webinar. Okay, so so we're getting a kind of nice big picture of what people do when they teach in this day and age. So it's a really nice record. So you could browse if that's what you prefer to do, but we'd really like you to come in and add on the Padlet.
It's not working. Yeah, if you click on the style.
Okay. That goes into this resource, and for each category, you've got a Padlet. And for each Padlet, you can explore or add. Has anyone been able to add, or do I need to do something to the Padlets? Okay. So maybe another couple of minutes, exploring the Padlets and then looking at the resources.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully you've had a bit of you've been a very, very obedient bunch, because when I say talk, you talk, and then when I say explore, you explore, which is very interesting. I'm sure your students aren't like that, right? So what you realize is that there's a lot of resource there and a lot of output from loads of other people for you to explore. And that virtual collaboration, you're collaborating with people from over a year ago who had something to say about this topic. And when you add your bits, the next time someone comes along, they'll be hearing your voice. So in a sense, collaboration is also working with, you know, when that first slide that we looked at, where we were looking at acquiring, if you like, studying, understanding, assimilating. Even when you're looking at the text in a book, you're really kind of, in a weird sort of way, it's a kind of collaboration in the sense that someone else has written that text for you to interact with in some way, shape, or form in your head. Okay? So, on to more active things now. We're going to invite David Anderson to run his fun, engaging, absolutely active, everything's going to go according to plan session. Yeah. Over to you, David.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so while this warms up, I'm basically going to show you 3 different things I use in class to try and promote collaboration with the students. As Lillian said, it's going to be a very hands-on session, and they're all based around Google Slides. Now, does anyone use Google Slides?
Evidence.
Evidence. Okay. What would your go-to be? Would it be the Microsoft PowerPoint, or would it be Google Slides? PowerPoint. I mean, I used to think the same way, because you prepare your PowerPoint, it's all ready, you're all prepared, you go into class and you do your presentation. But I've gradually moved over, after exploring Google Slides, I kept looking at it thinking, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. But now I use Google Slides all the time, because I don't think of it as a presentation, it's like a workspace for a class. And at the end of the class, they can take away an artifact which represents what's happened in the class. So it's a way of bringing together lots of different resources into one place. So I'm going to show you 3 different things. Audience question and answer, which is a part of Google Slides. Then we'll look at group editing, briefly. And then finally, we'll look at a third-party resource, which is called Poll Everywhere, which you can incorporate into Google Slides. There will be a link to this presentation later on, so you can have a copy. Right, first of all, if you've used Google Slides before, you'll know the Present button up here. What you may not know is if you click on the drop-down arrow, there's a presenter view. Okay, so if I go into presenter view, the idea here is that if you have a screen here, you can see your slides and any notes you've made, and the presentation is up here. The way the university set up is they're both always up here. If you move across, there's audience tools, and I'm going to start new. Okay, so what happens up at the top, you'll see there is a link here, goo.gl/slides/VZD7HT. Could you, some of you go to that slide for me?
Not part of the organisation.
Okay, it's,
This is not part of the organisation, so.
From University of York, sorry, you're right, it's because of anyone. There we go. It should be open to everybody now.
Refresh your screen.
Is it working now? Yeah. Okay. So the purpose behind this is to invite the audience to ask questions. You'll also notice there's a voting feature, so if there's a question you particularly like, you can vote it up. And you can attract the presenter's attention by voting up particular questions. Could anyone like to write a question? There we go. Do the students like this? Okay, and gradually as they get added, the ones that are preferred, the ones that get voted up, will appear near the top. New top questions, so I can show that this one has been voted up. I'm not sure about a swear word blocker. It depends on the size of your class, if it's small enough. You can set it up so that the students would have to log in, and so their name appears, I believe. Okay. So that's the first one. I'll leave that open during the presentation. The second one is Google editing. Oh, sorry. Within my presentation, I've put some instructions on how to do these things as a refresher. All right, and here's an example that I did with a class. I didn't use it for a question and answer session. I used it to encourage the students to practice. And what we were doing was practicing citing. So I put this up on the board. And what the students had to do was use the Q&A feature to come up with a citation for this particular quotation there. And this is some examples of what they came up with. Each group or each student came up with a quotation, and then they could vote according to whether they thought it was a correct citation or there was some problems with it. So the theory is the best ones float to the top, the worst ones float to the bottom, and you can choose which ones you want to focus on. So that's a feature that's built into Google Slides, an extra additional thing. The second one we're going to look at is group editing. Does everyone use group editing? Does anyone share documents and edit? I found it's a very, very useful feature, and I used to use Google Docs all the time. But the problem with Google Docs is the text is constantly moving up and down, and students aren't quite. Someone will make the text extra big, and it throws them way off. So I found that using Google Slides is a much better way in many ways, because they're confined to one slide. That is their slide. That is their box that they can work on. So again, the instructions for anybody who doesn't know, you could click on share, get a shareable link, and I'll step you through this now. So up here at the top we have the share button, and at the moment anyone with the link can view. I don't want you to be able to view it, I want you to be able to edit. So I've got the options, anyone at University of York can edit, but I need to make this more public, so I need to go down to more. Anyone with the link can edit. Save. And done. So now you should be able to edit this document, but I need to get you there first. So I'm going to come down and come here, and I'd like you to come to this. Sorry, there's going to be a lot of URLs. Come to this one. It's case sensitive, and that's a lowercase j and a capital M. And I'd like you to come to this PowerPoint, and if you can, navigate down to this slide. Okay, have you managed to come to the slide? Okay, so I'm going to put you into groups. Can you be group 1, you be group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, and group 6. All right? Now you'll find in the following slides you will have group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, group 6. Can you go to the slide that corresponds to your group and add some notes together in your group? You should all be able to work on this at the same time. Oh, sorry, what I forgot. If you have an iPad or a phone, you need to download the app to be able to edit. You can view, but you can't edit. The thing I often do as well in class is I have my iPad, so I can actually, rather than projecting things up onto the screen, I can monitor what each group is doing, and I can come around with my iPad and say, you're talking about this, and I can move on. You can interact with the students quite nicely, and they know that you're there watching what they're doing, which kind of helps the motivation. Right, so over to you. What can I now do with this? I now have 6 slides that have been populated by the students, by you. So what can you do with this?
Well, you asked them about it and why they said that. What was the rationale?
Exactly. So you can interrogate them about what they've written. You could also get them out to come and present what they've done. It's all there. I could do the presentation based on their slides and ask them to edit the slides and update the slides depending on what I say. There are many different possibilities. And one of the great features about this is you can do it anywhere. So it can be set as homework, and students don't have to be in the same location to be able to update their slides. And they can also, in real time, see what everybody else is writing, so they know how their piece fits into the overall picture. I think it's a very powerful tool for getting students to preview material and also to acquire the material. All right. I'm not going to go through this. We've lots of good ideas here. Oh, group 2, what's happened? Group 2, where's group 2?
I've got an iPad, so
All right, okay. If you wouldn't mind sorting that at some point, group 2. Possible problems, no internet. There's a big one. We had a little outage the other day here at the university, and there was no internet and nothing was working. So you have to adapt to those kind of situations. It requires appropriate device. The one thing I like about Google Slides is that they try to be device agnostic. You can use your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop for all the different features, which I quite like. Use a few collective notes. Yes, I've done this as well, collective notes. I've set up a PowerPoint before, And each day I allocate 1 or 2 students, and their job is to take reflective notes on the presentation for that day. The next day, another 2 students have to take reflective notes on that presentation, on the day's presentation or the day's work. So at the end of the course, you have one very long PowerPoint which has a kind of review of each of the sessions that was covered throughout the course. So that's a kind of, a full-length PowerPoint that takes over the whole duration of a course.
Have you ever used that in terms of adapting the material for the next group? Because I can see that to be a really good tool.
Yes, you can look at it and they can ask. I mean, I haven't really found they generally try to impress the teacher rather than acknowledge they've got weaknesses. But yeah, you could do if you encourage that. Yeah.
There is a problem though if you're doing that in Google Docs, because the text jumps around a lot. If you've got anyone with dyslexia or visual impairment, it's a bit of a nightmare.
If you're how.
So I did a lot of mentoring this term for Mozilla, and when they were doing the trains the cohort calls, they have a Google document that is basically a collective that everyone puts their notes in real time in the session.
Right.
If
Yes.
you're doing that can be.
Which is why, as I said, I prefer Google Slides for this kind of work because you're only concentrated on one slide. But yes, yes, I know.
It is a bit more manageable with slides that as a container.
Yeah. Lesson study, group puzzles, yep. Collaborative writing, yes, I've done that before. Collaborative writing, I've asked, we've done a class plan and each group has to write one of the paragraphs and try to make sure all the paragraphs fit together, they all have the same style. It's actually quite a challenging activity. Okay, group 6, peer assessment, use a rubric, feedback from teacher. Okay, all right, I'm going to move on now to Poll Everywhere. Poll Everywhere is a third-party application which can be incorporated into Google Slides. It's basically responseware, so it allows you to ask questions of your class and they respond, similar to what you saw this morning with, was it Mentimeter? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mentimeter. Now that asterisk there is to remind me that I need to switch off sharing for this.
Got your surprise slide, by the way.
You haven't, have you? Okay. It's the one behind. Thank you. All right. Has anyone used Poll Everywhere? You've used Poll Everywhere. Okay, so Poll Everywhere is, as I said, it's like.
Oh, I got access to
Access denied.
Sorry?
Access denied.
Oh, you have to
Just
do
got
it
this.
if you refresh.
If you refresh it, it might come back.
Okay, good.
Is it there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I haven't set it up on this computer, so I can step you through it. So we're in Google Chrome. I'm going to open a new window. I'm going to go to Apps. This is showing you how to get started with this. I'm going to go to Web Store, and I'm going to search for Poll Everywhere. And I'm going to add it to Chrome. Add extension. So this is. If you want to use this feature, you have to go through this process each time. You get the option here to turn on sync, which means that every time you log into Chrome, and no matter which computer you're on, it will follow you. I'm not going to do that just now. And if I come back here, and I refresh this page, I should have, up here at the top, I now have an extra menu item called Poll Everywhere. And I'm going to log in. Now I created an account before. You can go directly to the website, Poll Everywhere, to create an account, or you can do it through Google Slides. So I'm just going to log in here. Poll Everywhere. Okay, so the instructions for how to do this are in this PowerPoint if you want to follow them later on. Okay, so I'll give you an example of the kinds of things it can do. So I'll go back into present mode. I'm going to show you a little example quiz. This is a quiz that I inserted before, and what I really like about Poll Everywhere is this link, which unfortunately is a bit long, is the same link for me. So no matter what PowerPoint presentation I do, this is always the same link. So if students bookmark this one link, that's it. You just say, go to the link, and then we'll come directly to here. So it's pollev.com/David Andersaw. They missed out the N for some reason when I created it, the 089. If you could go to that. You can do it individually, or if you want to work together in your groups, that's fine. I'm going to give you a little quiz.
So we
But no, you go to you need to open a new tab, and in the new tab just type in that URL at the top, and you should come to something that looks like this.
So a quick hint as well is that if you're creating a Poll Everywhere account, create a username that's shorter than David and
I need to change mine. Yes.
and that's a nice thing.
Are we in? Now, it gives you the option to add a name if you want to add your name. You don't have to, so that conforms to the third-party privacy, whatever it is. Okay, are we ready to go? All right, so just a quick general knowledge quiz. 3 questions. You can do it alone, you can work in your groups.
Competition.
Here we go. I might have some gold stars in my pocket. Let me have a look. No, sorry, I forgot them today, but you can have a go. Okay, question number 1. What does gleek mean? This is a word that my daughter used the other day when we were in the car.
I've done this before and I still don't remember.
You can't remember. And there are your options.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now you'll notice the time limit. You've got 8 seconds left. 6. Okay, time's up. There we go. The correct answer, a lot of people got it, is to spray a line of saliva when you yawn. And my daughter said, oh, I gleeked all over the teacher. There we go. All right. Question 2. Oh, sorry, we have a leaderboard. Joe, congratulations, Joe. Where's Joe?
I didn't even make the entries. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Where is the Kamchatka Peninsula? So you have 4 options. Okay, time's up. The correct answer is it's in Russia, and the leader's Dawn. Congratulations, John.
I can't take the credit.
You can't. Dawn's group then. Okay, final question. Botanically speaking, which of the following is a true nut? Sorry, a bit random questions. Which of the following is a true nut? Okay, time's up. And the acorn, yes, the acorn. None of the rest are botanically nuts. Only the acorn is. I still don't understand the difference myself. I checked several websites, but that's the correct answer. Okay. All right, and there's the winner. The winner is Joe. Congratulations. Okay. So one of the things I can do, sometimes I do in class as well, if you want to ask a question at any point, you can just go poll everywhere. Inside Google Slides, insert new activity, and you can see there's a whole range of different options here. Multiple choice, question and answer, clickable image survey. So sometimes in class I might find out, do a spot survey on the students. If you have some pre-prepared, you can go poll everywhere, insert activity. It takes you to your account, and I'm going to insert these 3 activities.
So it adds extra slides.
It adds the extra slides, yes. And one of the features that I'll show you in a minute. If you have some images and things, it can take a little bit longer. So if I now just go back to the presentation, automatically on your screens something else should come up. Oh, let's move up.
We need to refresh as well. We all need to refresh our
No, it should come up automatically. Okay, do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a simple, different type of activity. Could you write one word that you'd use to describe educational technology in the classroom? One word. Rubbish, that's fine, put it.
Oh no.
No, no.
I would say innovation.
Innovation, okay. Fun, there we go. Okay, and as they come in, you can see they get added to the board. I can hide that if I want, so it's secret. Also up here I have an option visual settings, and I can change it to a text wall, a word cloud, depending on how many people have added the different words, a cluster, or a spotlight. So there's different ways of viewing the results, which is quite nice. And I think I have oh, innovative, there we go. Hang on, I need to close that. Oh, we're not going. Let's go. There we go. So here's another possible activity. What's your personality type? So you could imagine this as homework. Go away, interview some people, find out what personality type they are, and record it by clicking on the square that's appropriate for them. The next day you come back to class and you will have the results. It will be tallied up here how many different people have chosen which particular box. So it can be used for many different kinds of things. This is one where you take an image and you can break down the image and have hotspots on the image. Oh, we already have a one there. We have an EM, is that ENTJ? Oh, we have an ISFJ. Okay, so here's an open-ended one. What is your takeaway from this presentation on Google Slides? What is the one thing you're going to remember? What's the one thing you might use? Or maybe something you don't understand? Okay, and again, you'll notice over here there's some zeros. If you kind of hover over here, you can vote up. I'm not sure if you can vote down. You can certainly vote up the different comments to see, to show your preferences.
Yes.
There we go.
It's just click on.
So, I mean, I think as you can see, there's a whole different range of things you can do with this. Lots of different focuses for the class. It gets you away from that, teacher at the front doing a presentation. At the end, the students have a link to a document which they can go back to and they can look at again. One of the features, you may want to use this presentation in another class, but use the same material. So obviously you need to have a master and then make a copy, but you can also, if you're going to switch off the polls, you can go to Poll Everywhere, Insert, and Screenshots, and then you can choose which of the different activities you've done that day that you want to have screenshots put in, and then automatically it will generate a screenshot of the finished product, insert it into the presentation, and that means it can't be changed. It's there, it's fixed. It's a record of what happened in the class. Okay.
Again, I did. I learned this from David last time we had a session like that, and I did go and apply it in the next session. So my advice would be that you do need to practice to make it look as easy as David's made it.
You didn't, yes, okay. Yeah.
It does take a tiny bit of practice.
I was thinking all the time about this step.
Yeah.
how much practice do we need?
Yeah, well, start with the thing of just sharing the Google Slides and getting students to work in groups. Start with that one, which is the lowest, entry point,
Yes.
would you not say?
Yeah, and it's moving away from the idea of a presentation. It's more like, oh, I'm just going to, 1 minute, and I'm going to do something here and come back again, and not be afraid to show, what's happening behind the scenes, if you like.
Yeah.
The magician behind the curtain.
Yeah. But that's brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah, that's really changed everyone's perspectives. So that's brilliant. I hope that you'll have a little reflection on what you'll do with that information. I think David's already tried to collect that together, so that's really useful. And thank you very much for your participation. We've been hard at work for listening, being active for 2.5 hours. I think it's time for some lunch. That's in 106. Time to network and get a drink. Okay? Thank you very much.